honest, how often do you intend to practice, but then find yourself scrolling through your phone or suddenly remembering there's a whole pile of laundry that needs to be folded? The problem is we're waiting for that magical moment when motivation will suddenly hit. And it sometimes does, but very often it doesn't. And that's because we actually don't need motivation. We need something much better. For those who are new around here, my name's Tatiana. This is the Flute Practices space to help you learn and grow on this beautiful instrument. Now, before we get into what it is that you need for your practice, I want to tell you a little bit of a story. It is Wednesday today. Wednesdays is my filming day. I have an incredibly busy schedule, but Wednesdays I have cleared everything to dedicate my time to filming videos, which puts a lot of pressure on me. It means that I have to be on top of my game on a Wednesday, and honestly, that just doesn't always happen. Today, I woke up, I had a killer headache, my body's exhausted, my body's sore, and I can't rely on this wonderful magical thing called motivation, because if I did, I'd probably just stay in bed all day and do nothing. So I have to rely on something way better than that. What did I do? I get up, admittedly, I took some headache tablets after drinking coffee and eating some food. I rested a little bit because I know I needed to. Then I realized, okay, I know what makes me feel better. I got into my nice exercise routine. I'm literally still wearing my exercise clothing here. So I got straight into this video, did my nice exercise routine, and then got stuck into my routine for filming. And here is the thing. It's not motivation you need. It is discipline. You need discipline. And a student asked me a while ago when I wrote about this concept of motivation versus discipline, okay, well, that's great, but how do we get discipline? How do we do this in our practice? So today I want to share with you some simple tips to help you do this. Trust me, it's a lot easier and simpler than you think. And this brings me to my first really important point. The more that you can create systems and routines for yourself to follow, the less self-motivation you're going to need. And in our practice, that practically means we create some kind of a set practice routine. Here's what my routine typically looks like. It's what I recommend for my students. And in fact, it's kind of how I start all of my lessons as well. I recommend that we start off with a nice warm-up, physical warm-up. Brilliant to do. I definitely had to do mine this morning. Then we get stuck into some sort of a flute warm-up, like doing long tones, which I personally absolutely hate. I prefer to do a nice scale system that I teach my students as well. So I'll do my flute warm-up. Then I'll get stuck usually into doing some sort of studies or technical work, depending on what you prefer to do next. So I'll do some technical work, some studies. Then I'll move on to doing pieces or learning any repertoire I need to learn for orchestras or whatever you're working on. So I have a fairly fixed routine, which I do vary away from time to time. So I'm not like completely bound to it. But on those days where I'm feeling overwhelmed, I go to my routine. It's what I'm doing this morning coming into practice. I know that there's a specific order of types of videos that I film, although I'm breaking my routine right now with this one. But the irony is that when you have these systems in places, you actually feel more inspired, and you have those moments where you suddenly kind of break away and do other things because you know you have the system that can just hold you in those low times. The other thing that's really helpful to do, and boy oh boy, can I just say this took me years to learn how to do, is plan ahead of time. Plan your practice so that you actually have a plan going in. Ideally, you'd plan the night before or the day before. After your previous practice session, you already plan, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? This will take away that barrier to entry. So you're going to step into your practice and you're not going to be like, oh, no, I have to sit down and plan it out. But rather, you've done the planning while you're on a high of achieving something. You sit down and you plan it out, and then the next day you just do it. You execute the plan you've already created. Brilliant way to make sure that you actually follow through with what you want to do. Another very powerful and often underutilized tool is reward systems. Let's face it, sometimes you just need a bit of a bribe. And bribing yourself can be really powerful. So for example, I've said to myself, I'm going to film this video now. Once I've filmed this video, I'm going to go have a nice cup of tea, possibly, well, I've already showered, but I'm feeling a little hot after my little bit of warm-up exercise. So I'll probably just wash down a little bit and get ready for the rest of my day and for the rest of my videos. Rewarding yourself or setting something to reward yourself with ahead of time is so powerful. This could be something like something to eat, some tea, maybe to take a nice walk. Maybe it's a nice piece of music, like a really beautiful piece of music that you love to play that you're going to reward yourself after doing a certain block of practice. Sometimes it's just reward yourself with a break. And this brings me to my next important point about discipline. It's not just about pushing, it is about resting as well. So I started my routine this morning with some rest. Why? Because I needed that rest. I'd just taken some headache tablets to help my headache. I knew that if I just lay down for 10, 15, 20, even half an hour, I would feel inevitably a lot better. But we also need rests in our practice day. So for example, today in my schedule, I'm filming a lot of practice videos for our programs. And I know that if I keep going for an hour or even half an hour at a time, I'm going to feel really exhausted and I need to take those breaks. So I say to myself, okay, I'm going to film a half an hour video, I'm going to practice for half an hour, and then I'm going to take a 10-minute break. Again, nice cup of tea, extra reward. Maybe go and sit outside in the garden. I've got a beautiful little spot under the trees now. The point is that I'm resting and I'm planning in that rest into my process, which actually makes the whole thing feel less overwhelming and less scary and makes me much more likely to follow through. In general, you want to work with small, manageable goals, not, I want to practice 3 hours today. So small confession here. I have not been the best at exercising in the last couple of months. I really haven't. And I've been meaning to get back into it. And today my body screaming at me because I'm paying the price for not getting back into my regular exercise. Luckily, I have a really fantastic Pilates teacher and she's got a whole platform. I'll drop a link down to her platform below. But she has these little 20-minute videos, which are already quite, hectic. They are a little bit intense, but they're short enough for my brain to go, you can do that. You could manage that. 20 minutes, we can commit to that. So I did my 20-minute little routine. I didn't try to do a full hour, which I wouldn't manage anyway. It didn't feel so overwhelming. It was motivating because when I got to that 13-minute mark and I felt exhausted, I knew it's only 20 minutes. It's only 20 minutes. The irony is it was actually 24 minutes, but my brain told me 20 minutes, so it was easier to do as well. The point is small, manageable goals. So maybe it's just 10 minutes of practice. It's all I'm going to commit to today. It's just 10 minutes, and then I'm going to put it away. And I'll come back tomorrow and another 10 minutes. So we're doing these small little bite-sized goals that you are going to be able to achieve. And when you achieve them, you're going to get a dopamine high like I'm on right now. You're going to feel good about yourself, and you might even find yourself practicing a little bit more. You don't want to burn out though. You don't want to burn out, so you want to just keep it small little amounts that almost will make you want to come back for more tomorrow. Use some kind of a tracking system. Okay, so this kind of belongs to the reward category a little bit, but I think it deserves its own category because it is so powerful. Maybe that is just a little checklist. Can I say that having some sort of a little checkbox to check off every day is so satisfying and actually builds that elusive motivation. It's the same feeling we get when we cross things off our to-do list. It just builds that lovely kind of dopamine response that makes us feel good and keeps us going. So create some sort of a tracker, checklist, checkbox. Even if it's just in your planning, you just write out the things you want to do and put a little box next to it that you can check off or cross off. So helpful. And then my last point here is to just get in control of what's going on up here. There's two sides to this. The one side to this is that we beat ourselves up for what we haven't done. So we say, you're so terrible, you haven't practiced, or you haven't exercised, or you haven't done X, Y, and Z. And instead of focusing on where we are now and moving forward, we kind of sit in the space of guilt and shame and all of this just ruminating over what has not happened in the past. And yes, that's important. Those feelings are actually important because they're what are going to get you off your butt to practice and to do things. But if we stay stuck here in this kind of guilt cycle as we move forward, we're not going to be building a sustainable, joyful habit, but rather we're going to feel this external pressure of the guilt constantly pushing against us. It's not helpful. It's not what's going to bear good fruits. Rather, we want to put that aside, say, okay, yep, haven't been doing the best. I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to wipe my slate clean and I'm going to start again. So much more constructive. The other side of mental stuff that can kind of mess with you a little bit, and this certainly applies to me, is that sometimes there are hidden fears, or sometimes even I feel like I don't have the time and I don't deserve to just, enjoy my instrument for 30 minutes, right? Because life's too busy and I should be folding the washing, taking care of the kids, running around doing a million errands, maybe even just working. But here's the thing I want you to understand, that ultimately you are going to be more balanced, more effective, more productive, happier, all of those things, if you do take this time out to just enjoy your instrument. It de-stresses us. It actually helps us to just oxygenate our body as we breathe really nicely. It makes us more creative. It just does so many wonderful things. I've seen this time and time again in myself. So we have to remind ourselves that this is not allowing us a little treat, although it is a treat and it's lots of fun, but rather we're actually kind of sowing into our own personal, mental, physical health by taking this time out to make ourselves way more effective, more loving, more kind, more able to serve others when we step out of our practice session. And if you are looking for a nice booster to your practice discipline in a system that has planned out your practice all the way from beginning to end with my own practice routine, practice materials, and a whole bunch of really cool teaching videos, go check out our 6-week Flute Fast Track program. This is aimed at our intermediate players, but honestly, I think our more advanced players are going to enjoy this just as much. The repertoire and the studies might be a little bit easier, but you're certainly going to learn how to practice really well. So, links down below, go and check it out. And next up, you might want to go and watch this video on how to build a really effective practice routine.